Welcome back, everybody. It is I, Paul, your host of the Last Call Fantasy Football podcast, alongside my co host, Bobby Briscoe, here on May 4th, Monday, May 4th. Uh, Having had about a week or so to really digest the draft and digest the landing spots of some of these rookies, we are excited to be giving you a fun special mock draft episode where we will be doing a uh, startup draft, mock style, but also discussing the ups and downs of the value of some of these players. Now that we have had a moment to digest their landing spots, digest the roster construction of these teams, who's moving up, who's moving down in these rookie drafts, that will help decide where these rookies will land when it comes to redraft or dynasty startups and otherwise. So, Bobby, how we doing tonight?
Doing good. Excited to talk some football here on a Monday evening, as per usual. So, yeah, excited to get into it.
Hell yeah. We've got a list of rookies that we have to discuss tonight in terms of where are they moving in terms of our rankings, in terms of the draft capital that's been put into them. What does that mean for their NFL career outlook? And it's gonna be a fun discussion. So thank you everybody for hopping on. And if you haven't done so already, like and subscribe. I'm going to do that off the top so I don't forget at the end of the episode. And I really hope that you join us as we continue to discuss the wonderful sport that is the NFL Football League, NFL Football League, NFL, and and yeah, you know what? Let's get it cracking, Bobby. Cheers on a Monday
Ah,
night.
crack into it.
So, Bobby, tonight, what are we sipping on?
I am breaking the mold a little bit here. I am not drinking a beer tonight. I have a cider. This is from Farmgate. It's called B Squared, and it is a local cidery, I guess.
Cidery, yeah. What do you call it?
Whatever you call it, not a brewery. They make cider
Yeah.
from Arnprior, Ontario. So home of our good friend Matt. So
Mm-hmm.
shout out there to town of Arnprior. But yeah, these are absolutely lovely. Wonderful, wonderful little cider.
Yeah. Cheers. And I'm just back on my Sapporo for tonight. There we go. Sapporo for tonight. Um, yeah. I mean, for those that don't know, and which many of you won't, I've been on a bit of a family road trip this past week where I did a lot of sitting and a lot of driving. And I just on Saturday when I finally got home to like my house, my family, I told my wife, I'm like, hey, I need to go walk the dog, take him for a big walk, stretch these legs, and
Titus,
gratefully,
come here. We're going for a walk.
yeah, no ifs ands or buts about it. And I thankfully had a massage booked today, this Monday, so I don't know what stars aligned to help that work out the way it did, but I'm happy it did, and it's nice to have a beer that is not. You know what, Sapporo, you would think would be more readily available in the U.S., but I mean, I had a lot of Bud Light and a lot of local ales and lagers that were down in the Wisconsin, Minnesota, Michigan area. So
Mhm.
it's nice to get back to something a bit more familiar.
Back to the
But
old familiar. Yeah,
yeah,
exactly. Exactly.
okay. So let's get into it, Bobby. First off, we have to start talking about where these rookies are going to end up when it comes to their rookie mock, like the rookie drafts them itself. I've done rookie mock drafts. I'm sure you've done some rookie mock drafts just casually. And where these guys may fall between that, especially in the first round, I think there's been some significant movement in that first round based on the landing spots and based on the changing situations. So
Mhm.
I think the first player, and this is a player that I've been praising for the entire draft process, is Carnell Tate. I think the debate of who is literally the wide receiver one of this draft class, at least now in the short term, has to be Carnell Tate. Like there's no more debate. Jordan Tyson has competition in New Orleans with Chris Olave. Makai Lemon is in a crowded pass catching group in Philadelphia. Cardinal Tate has been drafted to be Cam Ward's true number one receiver. At least that's the optics and the way I'm receiving this information. How about you, Bobby? Do you agree with
Yeah,
that?
100% agree. Yeah, this is one that, in terms of a riser and in terms of, you know what you're getting with this player. He's going to be the guy there. It's a great situation in that you have, we talked about this a little bit on our draft recap, but you've got a young weapon with a young quarterback. This is the Jamar Chase to the Joe Burrow. Like this is going to be a thing that you can count on for a number of years to come. So yeah, slam dunk, windmill slam all day. Love the pick, and I think has to be the first wide receiver off the board in any rookie draft that you're doing.
Yeah, I think just the lack of competition is enough to make that argument for anyone. The fact that Calvin Ridley's he took a pay cut to get re-signed with the Tennessee Titans. The only other two like top receiver types that they have are Alec Iaminer and Kimray Dike, who both had flashes last year, but they don't have the pedigree of a Carnell Tate, who was a five-star recruit who came
Yeah.
from a good football program into Ohio State, where they just pump out top tier wide receivers. And the route running and the ability to separate, even though he doesn't have that top end speed, I think is going to be really friendly for a quarterback like Cam Ward, who wants to throw the ball down the field, who to a guy who can separate. Like
Mhm.
I think that's this is kind of a match made in heaven. And sure, maybe the production from Carnell Tate wasn't there at the collegiate level, but you have to take into account that he was lined up across from who's probably going to be a top five pick in this next year's draft with Jeremiah Smith.
Mhm.
So in an offense where they were so dominant, they could run the ball. They had two really good outside receivers. I mean, you can't knock them too much for the production, and I do like this landing place matched with a young quarterback who
Yeah.
needs a weapon.
Yeah, it's talent meets opportunity all day, every day.
You gotta love it. Do you want to go back and forth between up and down, or should we just go through all the ups?
Let's just go through all the ups and then we'll hit the downs.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. Okay. So the next one we have on our list is Dejon Stribling.
Mm.
And whatever your opinion of him is, he was taken as the first pick in the second round. And the 49ers are telling the world that if they hadn't found a way to trade down out of the first round, they would have taken him in the first round. So that's the confidence that they're projecting on this pick of Dejon Stribling. Promising a promising uh, prospect. He is 6'2", ran sub 4.4, had a really strong finish to his season at Old Miss. Like the yards after the catch weren't always there, but when they were there, like the flashes were really nice. The draft capital, I mean, that speaks for itself.
Yeah.
Do you how much are you letting this affect your opinion of a player who a lot of people had going in the third or fourth round, Bobby?
Highly. I mean, I am looking at him as a player that has shot up my rookie rankings. Um, like clearly there is athletic ability here, and the 49ers saw something that they liked and that they want to utilize. There is a clear pathway for him to be utilized as well. This is not an overly crowded wide receiver room where I don't think, he's going to be behind a lot of people that will block him from getting snaps and field time. Like he's going to see his time and be used. And I mean, is it a long term thing? Do I believe in the player enough to believe that he'll be, a weapon in the league a decade from now? Probably not. But if you're in more of a going for it this year type of situation, this is the kind of player that I would maybe lean towards. This isn't necessarily going to be a long term project. This is more of a potential, more immediate results type of wide receiver, I would think.
Okay, interesting. Like I it's I almost see it almost like a little bit reversed because
Interesting.
they brought in Mike Evans, and I think he's kind of like Mike Evans insurance is the way I look at it, as like
Mhm.
a big bodied field stretcher type, at least this year one. And once Mike Evans either succeeds or does not in San Francisco and moves on or retires or otherwise, then I think you feel better about Stribling.
Right.
The
I think maybe I'm lower on Mike Evans is maybe
Oh, okay.
more the thing here, right? Because I feel like that's not really um, necessarily a huge hurdle for Stribling to vault over at this point in Mike Evans' career as well.
And
He's had injuries. He's getting up there towards the cliff. So
yeah, I do appreciate that injury perspective because Evans, especially recently, has battled injuries the last 2 seasons. So certainly a player that could have opportunity early. Other than Mike Evans, you're looking at Ricky Pearsall, who's had injuries. You're looking at um, Juwan. I mean, Juwan Jennings is a free agent still, so it kind of is a barren room. The more I talk about it, you might be right. Like this is a not a bad landing spot for the guy. Um, and then the one thing I'll mention about him though is the hit rate for Kyle Shanahan skill players on day two. I'm sure you've heard this narrative as well, where I mean they haven't really hit on a lot of day two and day three picks. They've done fairly well with their date like first round pick, but then they start to get really cute with the consensus rankings and they start reaching on players aside from Deshaun Stribling, they took Kalon Black, who was not invited to the combine, who was probably going to be a fifth or sixth round pick, and they took him in the third. So there's something going on with the Shanahan and John Lynch kind of dynamic there, where they feel like they can reach on these players and do better. But you look at their track record of Tyrion David Price, you look at who are some of the other ones? Like it's Kyle Shanahan and day three running back or day two running backs is like a thing. It's
mhm.
who are some of the other ones? Oh my gosh, I'm anyway. The ghosts are screaming
you,
at
you,
me because there's a
you put too
bunch.
many miles on the car this week to be trying to remember names from more than a
Yeah,
couple weeks ago.
um, something James, Jordan James last year was a third round
Oh yes,
running
yeah.
back pick. Like they seem to accumulate these third round running backs, and they never nothing ever really comes to them. That could be because Christian McCaffrey is Christian McCaffrey. I do recognize that, but if they're going to keep investing in backup running backs for their star running back, then maybe they should pick some other position in the third round. Anyway, so does that? So okay. Let me ask you this: if you're drafting, and I think a lot of people would agree that there's kind of a consensus top nine rookies in rookie drafts.
Yeah.
If you're sitting there at the 111 or 112, which means you were competing for a championship or in a championship and won, are you considering Deshaun Stribling over Eli Stowers, over Omar Cooper, anything like that?
Oh, no, no, I would not be considering Stripling over either of those players. In fact, I would not be looking at Stripling until probably towards the later end of the second round or even
Okay,
into the third round. Like
okay,
I don't I talked him up maybe quite a bit at the start here. And certainly I think he's risen in his capital. Like he would have been a player that I would have been looking at far later than that prior
okay,
to the draft capital. But I think if you're starting to get towards the end of the second round and into the third round and you're looking for a player that can maybe help you this year, that's a guy to look towards. But I think there's certainly higher ceiling options earlier on in the draft, even including some of the people we're going to talk about as fallers. I would still take above
okay,
him just because I think they have a higher ceiling.
okay. All right. Let's move on to Jadarian Price, who
Mm.
I was lower on through the entire process. The Seahawks may have cornered themselves into having to take a running back at the 32nd pick overall as a first round pick. I'll just leave it at that. You tell me how much you think Jadarian Price has risen in terms of his value, Bobby, now that he is a first round running back to a Super Bowl winning team.
Top five pick,
Top five.
top
Okay.
five. top five
Wow.
pick. I would take him over a number of, except for like the top tier of wide receivers, and then Jeremiah Love. I would probably take him.
Wow.
Um, I think the opportunity here, and this is another one of those, you know, maybe you are a team that's looking to win now, but you can probably grab yourself an RB2 in the rookie draft here who will be helping you immediately. Is that going to last forever? Is that going to last once Charbonnet's back? Maybe not. Charbonnet's not going to be back for a while. He's dealing with a pretty serious injury, and even when he's back, he's probably not going to look like Charbonnet again for a while. And this team wants to run the ball. They drafted this position because they have need of it very clearly. So he's gonna get his touches. He's gonna get use, and I think there's just way too much opportunity here for you to find yourself a like startable running back. So
And I think the scarcity is the biggest part too, right?
yeah,
Because
yeah, there's that as well.
they're like the next running back taken was taken in the third round. Normally you see those running backs if they're worth it are taken in the second round because the running back needy teams usually take them there. They're cheaper. They
Mhm.
don't have the fifth year option. Blah 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 blah. Him going in the first round to a team that is missing a workhorse running back. I think you're right. The opportunity is enormous. I bumped him up from like my 110 position to like my 106 position. You saying the 105 though? I mean that's it's a
Pretty close. Yeah,
stone's throw away. But
yeah,
he's certainly worthy of that. I think you're right with
yeah.
just in terms of like if you're in Dynasty, when do you get a chance to add a starting running back to your team? You if there is an opportunity to do so, you have to kind of jump on that. Like wide
Yeah,
receivers,
exactly.
they've become so plentiful now that it's running backs that teams are starving for.
Mhm.
So I wouldn't be surprised if you're on the mark there if he's a top five pick in rookie drafts.
Yeah, I think absolutely he's somebody you need to consider in that spot. Yeah, I mean we're going to talk about the player in a little bit, but the next running back I have on my list is Jonah Coleman, and he's someone I'm looking at, late first round, start of the second round in that
Okay,
range. So there's kind of a gap until you get to another running back.
certainly. So I mean I put Ty Simpson here, and this is more of like a call out to our super flex leagues out there that need to start two quarterbacks. You could potentially talk yourself into the fact that he's with Sean McVay. He's a first round pick with a top 15 draft capital, and he's going to be learning from the best. I'm not sure how much Matthew Stafford is going to be taking him under his wing. That seems to be a point of contention. But if you have the capability of rostering a quarterback in a dynasty league where you're hoping that he might develop to a point where he could be a starter in a year or two, if Matthew Stafford gets hurt this season, all of a sudden you have a quarterback that's operating that offense that we love. So, I mean, do you have any thoughts on this? I wanted to give him a call out because I know that
Yeah,
we've had this talk before where we're
yeah,
not we're
I
not
don't,
high
I
on
don't
him.
want to go off again. I've ranted on Ty Simpson already enough, I feel. This is technically correct. He is a draft riser and, worthy of a shot in the spot here, but I don't have to like it.
Yeah, yeah. If you're in Superflex or two quarterbacks, he's probably worth taking in the first round. Towards the end, I would say, because there's still as much as we have been harping on how bad this draft class kind of is at the skill positions. He's still a first round quarterback. They get so much leash. He's going to be in the league for 10 years, even as a backup at some point.
Yeah,
And you can roll the dice with that if you'd rather take that over, a day three running back towards the back end of the first, beginning of the second. That's kind of where I have him slotted if we were talking about Superflex.
yeah, yeah. It has to be a super flex conversation, but yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
agreed.
good. Okay, Casey Concepcion. Um,
Casey Jones.
yeah, I like him as a riser here. And I know that I think when we first talked about him maybe last week, I was I was confused about what to do with him in the Cleveland room in general. But the more I thought about it, I'm like, this guy might be the best route runner and separator in this wide receiver group of this draft class, and I think he's going to oust Jerry Jeudy and all these other pass catchers fairly quickly. I
Yeah.
don't know what the quarterback situation is, but if you can have a long-term outlook for this player, I think the sky's the limit for a guy like this who like talent will just burst through at some point. He's too good to not make an impact, if not this year, then next.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, the team told us exactly what they think of him with the draft capital that they put into him. And that's something that you have to consider as well. So definitely a player that, yeah, a little bit more of a project. You might have a little bit more patience required if you're picking him, but definitely, I think a riser and someone who's kind of shot up in the last little bit based on that landing spot and the opportunity that's there long term.
And I think the match with Todd Monken as the head coach now, who's going to be the play caller more likely than not, I think that match works really well. You saw what Todd Monken did with his A Flowers type. You like he
Mhm.
likes his players who work out of the slot. Um, Casey Concepcion can play, as far as I'm concerned, anywhere on those wide receiver positions, and I I can't quit the idea that he like the Cleveland Browns are not married to Jerry Jeudy or Cedric Tillman after this year. Like they could very quickly this wide receiver room could look very different very quickly within a
Yeah.
year's time. And my comp was always like young Stephon Diggs was my comp to Casey Concepcion. And if you can get that, and if you can have the patience to just hold on for a year, these first round wide receivers just hold value so well. Uh, so even if it's a bad season this year, just tough it out through that storm, and I think you're going to be happy on the other side because the player is good. This player is very good.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, you added Eli Stowers to our sheet here, Bobby.
I
So
did add Eli Stowers. Yeah. This is another kind of you'll have to have some patience with this pick. But if you're looking for a long-term tight end in this draft, the potential opportunity in Philadelphia is definitely there. Dallas Goedert is back for this year, but it's a one-year deal, and they used this draft capital to go and get Stowers, and he's the heir apparent there. And we know the kind of success that Goddard's had in Philadelphia. If he can, fill into that role over the course of the next couple of years, then he could be a very good long-term option for you at tight end. So definitely, if I'm looking for a tight end in this draft, and he's available in the late first round kind of deal, that would be a player I'd be kind of looking to snag.
yeah, he a lot of people, not I should say a lot of people, some fantasy analysts might have him above Kenyon Sadiq in terms of like fantasy output. Not
Mhm.
even just this year. Like I mean, obviously not just this year, but like beyond. To your point, Dallas Goedert moving on, it seems to be the likely situation going into 2027. And like when you look at the Philadelphia Eagles offense, they paid everybody. Like they paid AJ Brown, who's probably going to be gone. They've paid Devontae Smith. They paid Dallas Goedert. They paid Saquon Barkley. They paid Jalen Hurts. They are going to need to start getting younger at some of these pass catching options. So him replacing Dallas Goedert, or even potentially, we saw this with Colston Loveland with the Bears. He's a tight end, but he can line up outside at X.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
there
Yeah, and his blocking, to my understanding, is not anything to really write home about. So,
no, he's not drafted to block people. That's for sure.
yeah. So,
He's there to catch passes up the seam and be a huge jump ball target for Jalen Hurts is the way I read it. So I do like this call out. I think the landing spot works. And we talked about this last time. It's like they made a concerted effort to give Jalen Hurts targets that succeed in the middle of the field. If you get Eli Stowers running up the seam and you have Makai Lemon running these underneath routes, these choice routes, Jalen Hurts like they did their job. Now it's on you to kind of perform as the quarterback that you've been paid to be.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
So that's it for
Will we be
our
negative now?
yeah, let's get really negative and just hate on a bunch of guys. So
Perfect. Love that.
um, so that's it for our players that we are considering moving up in our rankings. Let's talk about some guys that might be moving down, and that is the first player on our list is Denzel Boston, who was a passion project of mine this draft season. I loved the frame, the talent, the ability to win jump balls, the smoothness in his route running to go along with this sizable frame at 6'4", 210 pounds, and just I hate to say it, but he is not better than Casey Concepcion on the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. I was also high on the prospect, but the landing spot is bad for him. And I hate to put too much into the landing spot sometimes, but yeah, he's going to be behind KC Concepcion. Oh my goodness, fun name to say, but hard name to say sometimes. He's going to be behind him, and yeah, that's going to be something that he's going to be stuck with for a while, I think. So, that doesn't necessarily mean that not a useful player. I mean, T. Higgins is good. He's not Jamar Chase, but he's still good.
hmm
But yeah, there is a limiting factor. There's a ceiling that's been put in place.
Well, I think the biggest part is that I was hoping he would be drafted by a team where he could be not maybe not a feature, excuse me, maybe not a feature piece of the offense, but at least a usable piece of the offense. When I look at this Cleveland Browns team in the short term, he does not project to be a target hog, right? Like
Yeah.
especially in PPR leagues where you're every catch is a point. I think Casey Concepcion projects more to be that target hog who's going to win immediately for these quarterbacks that are not good. And if Denzel Boston is this field stretcher, this X type receiver who's probably going to be sacrificial X for at least this season until they get a quarterback who's willing to chuck the ball, I think he's going to be a low volume. He could make it up in touchdowns, I think, but
Hmm.
I just would I be shocked if he finished with 500 yards and 6 touchdowns this year? That might be the best case scenario for a season for Denzel Boston.
Hmm. Yeah, exactly. Just not reliable. And yeah, again, the positioning here in terms of draft
Well,
landing spot is
it's like
unfortunate.
we talked about last week. A lot of these players that we were really excited about landed in places where they're just going to cannibalize each other, and that leads us right into our next. I put these two together. Uh,
Yeah.
Omar Cooper, wide receiver out of Indiana, and Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. Two slot types that do their damage kind of in the middle of the field, out of the slot. Landing on the New York Jets, I think, is kind of worst case scenario for these two players,
Yeah.
where they have
In
yeah. Go
so
ahead.
many ways. I was
In
just gonna
so
say,
many
in so
ways,
many ways, it's the Jets.
I know. And it's Garrett Wilson and it's Brees Hall and it's Geno Smith going to a new system with a offensive coordinator and Frank Reich, who we are not high on. I think you and I,
Mhm.
every like the last couple, unless he's had an epiphany and decided to change a lot of what he's done in the past. I don't know if Frank Reich is the guy to unlock players like this. Where I think, generally speaking, Omar Cooper, he did have some dynamic plays downfield, but he was much more kind of utilized as like an underneath or a screen guy for the Fernando Mendoza led Indiana offense. He did have his moments downfield. I think he has those flashes, but he, I did not think Omar Cooper was worthy of a first round pick. The Jets took him there, and Kenyon Sadiq, who is like he's probably the best all-around tight end in this draft class based on his athleticism, his willingness to block, and then his just like go up
Mhm.
there and moss you kind of moments. But I don't know. Does Geno Smith excite me about like trying to distribute the ball to Garrett Wilson, who's already been paid, to Brees Hall, who's in a contract year again? It's going to be tough sledding, I think, in a
Oh
tough
yeah.
division.
I will say to give them some credit, I think you touched on it here. These are both like athletically really good prospects, and I will still be drafting these guys in the back half of the first round of a rookie draft
Yeah.
based on who they are as prospects, their talent, their athletic ability. all those things. I hate the landing spot. I hate the situation, but again, this is Dynasty, right? And you can afford to have a little bit of patience and hope that these guys over the course of their careers are going to eventually get it done, right? And I think that they will. I think there's enough athletic talent here that these guys will be good players in the NFL. Might you be horribly frustrated that it's going to waste in New York for a year, 2 years, however
Yeah.
long it is, until either things change there or they're not there anymore. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Let me
the
ask you this.
talent's there.
Yeah, so we were spoiled last year with a very talented skill group draft class. Um, I was able to get Colston Loveland in the second round of our rookie draft
Yeah,
last year.
crazy.
And do you think Kenyon Sadiq is the kind of player who's going to be able to produce at the tight end spot for you in his first year? Like some of these, like we've had a streak now of Sam Laporta, um, Brock Bowers, then Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren. And like, do you think he continues the streak of first round tight ends that actually produce out of the gate?
I'm gonna say no. He's not one that I'm gonna pick to do that. Um, I think he'll produce. Like he'll get touches. Are you going to be happy starting him? Probably not.
Yeah, that's where I land as well. Um, yeah, okay, let's talk about Mike Washington.
Mm.
And he, after the combine, I think a lot of people expected him to go a little bit higher. I think
Hmm.
people were hoping maybe he'd find a spot in day two. If I'm not mistaken, he went in the fourth round or fourth round. I'm pretty sure to be
Um,
a backup to Ashton Genty.
yeah. Checking draft rankings,
Sure,
draft results.
I'm pretty sure he was a fourth rounder.
Yeah, he was, I
Okay,
think.
all right. So for him to go there to end up behind Ashton Genty, I know that Kubiak does like to use more than one running back, so there's a glimmer of hope for him here. But any hope for him to end up in that back end of the first round of your rookie drafts disappeared pretty quickly when he went on in the fourth round. Anything you
Yeah.
want to talk about there?
No, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. If you're an Ashton Denty owner, would be trying to grab him.
Yeah,
But other than that, I mean, yeah, definitely later second round kind of value, I think,
yeah.
unfortunately.
I guess you could sell yourself on the fact that he's like the lightning to Ashton Genty's thunder, but I think Ashton Genty's going to get a healthy workload again this year. So
Oh yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay. You've highlighted Jonah Coleman. I put him
Mhm.
here as a player moving down my board. What do you want to talk about Jordan Coleman?
So I don't disagree with you in that he's maybe kind of lost some value, but I mean, I still have him as RB3 in this draft class of rookies. A gulf between him and where we had Jadarian Price, but I still think that there's a lot of potential here. Kind of interesting because also a guy who's going to be in kind of that second running back situation. But I see a path for him to be in that situation and to get more use in that situation, more than just a occasional change of pace back. I can see him getting working his way into a bigger role there in Denver, and they did spend the draft capital to go and get him. Right, he was their second pick off of the board, so that tells me that they wanted a running back and that they have a use in mind for him.
Okay, I just it's a tough it's tough for me to imagine almost any of these running backs being like league winners for us now, where we're looking at J.K. Dobbins, who got signed back for another year, R.J. Harvey, who was a second round pick for Sean Payton last year, Jaleel McLaughlin still hanging around, Tyler Badee still hanging around, Jonah Coleman, he was taken in the fourth round as well, if I'm not
Yeah,
mistaken.
it was the fourth round. Yeah.
So I think he's J.K. Dobbins' insurance. Maybe he gets some goal line, and I think I guess there's a possibility that he emerges on like above J.K. Dobbins if J.K. Dobbins really has lost that step.
Mhm.
Um, it's going to be I think it's going to be a backfield that's going to frustrate people.
Yeah, I get that, but I know I think worth a risk. This is worth a roll of the dice, if especially if you need a running back. Because yeah, J.K. Dobbins, R.J. Harvey, that's what you got to beat, right?
Yeah.
I think that's a beatable situation, and he could definitely carve himself out a role there.
Yeah, you don't need to sell me on Jonah Coleman. I thought he was. I was hoping he would be the running back that the Seattle Seahawks took at the 32nd pick, because that would
Mhm.
be just perfect. Washington kid, moving costs are low, doesn't have to move far, and just steps into a good situation. But I guess you know what? It's football. Things change very quickly. So
Mhm.
all it takes is a J.K. Dobbins injury for him to become the lead back, and R.J. Harvey's your scat back, and everyone else gets a touch here or there, I guess, and
Yeah,
it could shake out very quickly that way.
that's what I'm hoping for if I'm drafting Coleman.
Gotcha. Okay. The last player that we have moving down is Makai Lemon, and I guess it's hard to move him down too much, but I think I put him in this category simply because of the what's it called? The disparity between him and the other two guys that were taken. Carnell Tate going 4, Jordan Tyson going 8, and then him sliding all the way down to 20. I I think that tells you what the NFL thought of a player like this. With the Rams could have taken him.
Hmm.
I think that we talked about this on previous pods where I think he as a player, it's easier to find a slot guy who can sit in zone and like just be that slot play. Like slot players, I think are losing their value where tight ends are gaining value, and these outside receivers that could win outside are gaining value.
Hmm.
So that's where I had him sliding down a little bit. I think if we were to do a rookie mock draft right now, we're looking at Jeremiah Love, Carnell Tate, probably Jordan Tyson. Maybe you put Jadarian Price up there. Um, there's other players I would be more comfortable taking, both short term and long term, because even though he's taken in the first round of this draft, I I seriously believe that Devontae Smith is going to be the player that benefits from everything that shakes out in Philadelphia this year.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just too crowded of a room. I think long term, he will definitely be a productive player in the NFL. But yeah, in the short term, that's a very crowded wide receiving room. And yeah, definitely a faller as well because, the potential with different draft capital, if he was taken by another team, then he could potentially be the wide receiver one in this class, right? Like there was a pathway for him in a different landing spot to be at the top of this list. And I think he is very clearly not at the top of this list of that upper echelon of players that we're looking at in this draft. His stock definitely fell quite a bit with everything that's shaken out around him.
Yeah, could he catch the most passes from this like group of receivers this year? Maybe, probably.
Maybe there's a possibility there for that, but again, like how exactly is this offense in Philadelphia going to operate with all the weapons that they have, right?
Yeah.
Because like Goddard's still there. They have a crop of wide receivers that is good, right? Where does Lemon actually fall within that crop of wide receivers? We talked about Stowers being there as well, right? Does Stowers carve out a role for himself earlier on than we anticipated, right? So yeah, there's just a lot of competition there and a lot of uncertainty.
Certainly. All right, everybody, we're going to take a quick break before we jump into our mock draft. So hang tight, and we'll be right back. And we are back, everybody. We are going to dive right into our Dynasty Startup mock draft here. I have taken the 104 spot, which I will talk about once we start this thing off. And Bobby, you are taking your 109 spot.
109.
Okay, so for any of our league mates that give a care, feel free to watch as we work our magic from our
And give away all our strategies.
exactly deep dive into our minds here. The
Mhm.
so we're not going to do a full 30 rounder here, everybody. We're looking at the first 9-ish picks, so we're going to fill out our starters and maybe that first bench spot. So keep that in mind as we dive in here. And I'm going to kick us off here, hitting the start button. Bijan goes 101, Jamar Chase 102, Puka Nakua 103, and my league mates will know this, that I traded up from my 107 spot to get up into this 104 because I do believe that there is a big four when it comes to fantasy football studs. And I'm going to take Jameer Gibbs here. And honestly, I would be happy with any of these players that would fall to me at this 104. I think you could be justified with Bijan, Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, or Jameer Gibbs in that 101 spot. Maybe there's some people that feel like a little bit spicy getting Jackson Smith and Jigba there, but I really do believe that there's a top four, and I want to be able to get one of those guys to be the pillar of my team going forward.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I am a little bit disappointed by some of the players that went off the board, but also a little bit surprised that the computer is taking quarterbacks this highly as well.
Thanks, Sleeper.
Um, yeah, thank you. I'll jump on somebody who I don't expect to be available to me at 109 when we actually do this, but I will take him here. I'll take Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah, and I was pretty excited with if I could make a deal happen, I would have been very happy with Amon Ross St. Brown at my 107 spot. I would have been very excited. But
Hmm.
after that, we have Drake, another quarterback, two quarterbacks come off the board, plus two tight ends at the end of the
Oof.
first. Bowers and McBride go. CeeDee Lamb, Drake, London kick us off in the second round behind
Yeah.
Jaden Daniels, and you are back up, Bobby.
I am back up again on the turn. So the turn position is an interesting one because you get your running back here now, or do you go wide receiver, and fade running back? I would have expected more running backs to be off the board at this point, and
Honestly, yeah.
probably would think about going wide receiver if that was the case. But given who's here, let's just grab Ashton Genty.
Okay. So you would have him over. So with this being Dynasty Startup, you would have him over the Devon A. Chans, the James Cooks, the Jonathan Taylors.
Yeah, I would take him over those older running backs. Devon Achan just has too many question marks for me at this point with all the unknowns in Miami. Do love the player though. Had him in our previous dynasty league and thought he was great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gente. I like the age for the player as well.
Okay.
He's still very young. He's only 22 years old. So
Yeah.
to have knowns on a player that young, I will go for.
Okay. So after Ashton Genty at the 204, you get Justin Jefferson falling to the 205, which surprises me. Tet McMillan ends up in the second round in the middle there. Jeremiah
Mhm.
Love off the board at the 207. Jonathan Taylor 208. And I think this reflects this could reflect a lot of dynasty startup drafts. I know we've talked in the past about like quarterbacks. Should they go early? Should they not? Um, I guess if you know that you're going to have a top five quarterback for the next 5 to 10 years, you could justify taking them this high. I think
Mhm.
we're getting thrown a curveball here though, Bobby, with Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels all going off the board within that first round and a pick. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it just means that more value is going to fall to us when it comes to making our picks in this situation. Now,
Yeah, for sure.
I'm faced with a tough one here because I am a huge Colston Loveland fan, and I'm looking here at the 209. I could go Colston Loveland. I could go one of these other Studley running backs. The top receivers available are George Pickens, Nico Collins, Chris Olave, Mika Ibuka. So do I go running back, and then trust my receiver depth for later in the draft, or do I take the onesie? I think I'm going to follow my heart here, and I'm going to take Amarian Hampton, who I was a big fan of coming out last year. Didn't get the opportunity with all the injuries that he had, and with the new offensive coordinator there, I'm going to be excited to see what he can cook up for Amarian Hampton. I'm going to go running back here at the
Mm.
104 and then the 209. After that, Lamar Jackson, Colston Loveland goes. So something I'm gonna have to keep an eye on. If Colston Loveland does end up going this high, if all these tight ends go this high, like that's going
Yeah,
to
we've
be
had four tight ends off the board here from the computers already. So
absolutely wild. So we're gonna have to wait on tight end here, everybody. Because once those top four go, I'm not really excited about what falls behind. So Devon Achan 301, which is a huge shock to me, if I'm being honest. James Cook, Tyler Warren in the 302, 303. So
mhm.
I will now. I like the value of some of these wide receivers here. I'm going to go. Okay, where are we with George Pickens? Has he signed his franchise tag or has he not?
Yes, he has signed his franchise tag. That is
That
the thing that has happened.
officially signs. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, would I feel comfortable with him as my wide receiver one? I don't know. I'm going to go Nico Collins here.
Yeah,
I
I like that.
he's my kind of receiver.
Hmm.
I'm starting to like my build here with Jameer Gibbs, Omarion Hampton, and Nico Collins as my wide receiver one.
Hmm.
The receivers we just talked about, Abuka Olave, come off the board. Travion Henderson goes, which I think this is a reach by Team Seven.
Hmm.
He's
Yeah.
he's more like a running back 15 to 20 in my eyes, but if you like the youth and the possibility, I guess that's a possibility. George Pickens goes 308, and you are back on the board here, Bobby.
I am back on the board. I have a decision to make here at this point in time. Because at this point, given what's come off the board, I'm definitely fading tight end for a while. I would like to get a quarterback sometime in the nearish future, but I think I wait on that too. Um, so I've got a couple of players that are in this realm here, and he's older, so interesting pick in a dynasty startup. But I do like winning leagues, so I'm gonna take Christian McCaffrey.
That's a savvy pick. I was just like, oh my God, Christian McCaffrey is still available here.
Yeah,
That is incredibly wild to me. With him,
yeah.
I mean, he's 29. Maybe he'll turn. I forget when exactly when his birthday is, but
Mhm.
all the guy does is win fantasy championships. So
Yeah,
I do like that pick.
yeah. I think Gente and McCaffrey is my two running backs. That's pretty good. I'm very happy with that. I'm not going to be as happy with my wide receiver situation, which is unfortunate. So I think, ooh, what do I do here? I like this player, and he's young, which is kind of a double positive here for me right now. So let's grab Lad McConkey as well.
Okay. Yeah, you have to hope he has a bounce back to what we saw in his first year, right? Like
Yeah.
the new offensive coordinator. Um, hopefully the offensive line holds up this year so that some stuff can develop downfield for the guy.
Mhm.
Justin Herbert was just under fire the entire season last year, and it didn't really allow for a lot of
Yeah.
stuff to develop downfield for Lad McConkey types.
I was
Um,
debating between him and Carnell Tate, and I tossed back and forth before going with McConkey. I just prefer the known factor because we don't know what Tate is in the NFL yet, and we at least have an idea of what Lad McConkey can be.
100%. So you drafting out of the 109 spot currently have Amon-Ra St. Brown, Ashton Genty, Christian McCaffrey, Lad McConkey, a good blend of new and old. And then I've
Mhm.
got Jameer Gibbs, Omarion Hampton, Nico Collins, and I'm here at the 409. And I like my options here at the
Mhm.
409. It's funny how they have Luther Burden and Roma Dunze back to back here in terms of rankings. I
Mhm. That's interesting.
and because I didn't get Colston Loveland, I can kind of hedge here and take my Luther Burden. Uh, seems like a lot of fantasy analysts and just fans of the game are really high on Luther Burden this year, and I don't know how you can blame him. Like he had a great yards per route run last year. It's really started to come on towards the back end of the season. And if I don't get Colston Loveland, you best believe I'm going to take Luther Burden because I want a piece
Yeah,
of that
absolutely.
Chicago Bears offense.
Mhm.
Okay. Um, I'm back up at the 504 now after Barkley, Marvin Harrison, Roma Dunze, Brian Thomas, which is a shocker to me, going at the 501, Jordan Tyson 502, T Higgins 503, and I'm looking at, I've done pretty well here in terms of gathering youth and solid players. I think I'm going to go AJ Brown here, and
I don't mind it. I don't mind it one little bit.
if AJ Brown is my wide receiver three, like, are you
Mhm.
kidding me? The guy was a wide receiver one last year on a bad situation in offense. So I'm clicking auto draft on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit of draft strategy here.
Hmm.
Because I would like to nail down tight end and quarterback here in the next little bit. Now, looking at positioning and looking at what has been taken so far, um, the three teams behind me have all taken tight ends. So I'm going to hope that none
Mm-hmm.
of them decide to go for a second tight end
Mm-hmm.
here in the next little bit. Now, two of them have also taken quarterbacks. So I think I'm fairly safe here, but Team 11 has not taken a quarterback here and might also be thinking, like me, I need to lock down my quarterback. So I'm going to try to get my preferred quarterback here now and hope that the tight end that I want is still kicking around on the turn.
Okay.
So let's see if this works. Now, my preferred quarterback might be a little bit of an X factor, but I just love this player, and I'm going to be very happy if he's on my team. So let's go with Jackson Dart.
Oh, you sniped him from me because I was really hoping he might be around. Um, I was really hoping he might be around for this pick for me. And
Okay,
I
and
got
it did work out for me because the Team 11 did take a quarterback and took Herbert with Dart being gone, presumably. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my tight end now and get Tucker Craft.
oof. Yeah. So I guess I'm not upset with the way that the draft has fallen to me. I wish I was kind of hoping Caleb Williams would be here maybe a round or two later where he was because he went right after my AJ Brown pick and I
Yeah,
would have loved to stack him with Luther Burden. I think Caleb Williams is like breakout season uploading. Um, so with all that said, what am I going to do here at the 609? Um, and this feels like a bit of a breaking off point here because the options there's options across each position
yeah,
and it's just a matter of how you want to construct your team. So with Jadarian Price being here, that's kind of appealing to me. Derrick Henry for a season or two, I don't mind that.
Derrick Henry. Yeah,
Or
that's
you
true.
could look at the wide receiver group with some of these rookies or some of these like boomer bust wide receiver types. Casey Concepcion, Alec Pierce, Michael Wilson, Omar Cooper are all still on the board. Um, Tight end, you could go Kyle Pitts, but I've sworn off of Kyle Pitts.
Don't do it.
I've been
Don't
to
do it.
many group talks and meetings about how to get
Been
off
through
of Kyle
rehab,
Pitts.
been through therapy sessions.
So, um, yeah, you know what? I like this value for Jadarian Price. I'm going to go Jadarian Price and just keep on
Yeah,
filling out this running back room.
I really like that pick.
Casey Concepcion goes, Trevor Lawrence goes, RJ Harvey, which I think our league's gonna be smarter than taking RJ Harvey at the sixth round. I think he's gonna
Yeah,
fall. I know we talked about how he could lose touches. Derrick Henry goes 701. Bashal Tutin, I was kind of hoping would make it back to me, but he doesn't. DeAndre Swift, I like this value for DeAndre Swift here in the seventh round.
yeah, that's
He
pretty good for him.
he goes 703, and he's still the man in Detroit. I'm here at the 704, and I'm going to go. Do I just keep kicking the can down the road for these onesies?
Hmm.
You certainly could. I might. What's the tight end room look like? Yeah, like I've punted on tight end so much. I feel like I just have to punt it again because I don't like the value of some of these guys here. Wide receiver.
Well, and at this point as well, just again thinking draft strategy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's only two other teams in the draft that haven't taken a tight end yet.
hmm
So, if there's three tight ends that you like, you're going to get one of them.
Well, you know who I like here, and this is once I saw his name, I'm like, I know who I'm taking because he's not going to make it back to me for the eighth round. I'm going to take Christian Watson, who
Yeah, love that pick.
I really think he's due for a breakout season here, and
Mhm.
kind of thrilled. If I'm starting three receivers in Nico Collins, Luther Burden, AJ Brown, Christian Watson as my first flex, I've got Jameer Gibbs, Omarion Hampton, Jadarian Price as my two running backs as my second flex. I'm just to the moon, man. I really
Mhm.
am. I need to figure out my quarterback and tight end over the next two rounds, but we'll see what falls to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I am in an interesting position because I have a fully fleshed out team and I'm just grabbing flex players here at this point. So, who do I want to have in my flex spots? And who do I think will have good value for me there? Um, I'm going to scroll down a little bit in their rankings here on the wide receivers, and I'm going to grab somebody who I quite like because of the quarterback that throws in the ball. I'm going to get Terry McLaurin.
I like that. I was eyeing Terry McLaurin until I saw Christian Watson. I think
Mhm.
that's really good value for the number one receiver on a trending upwards offense. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll probably be very happy to have him in my flex spot. Um, Now, what do I do again with this pick? I would like another option at running back, and that is something that I don't like a lot of the options here right now that are kind of the immediate vicinity. So do I go with another wide receiver and kind of hope that there's a good running back option again when it comes around to me? There probably will be. Hmm. Hmm. I don't like a lot of these wide receiver options at this point either, though, is the thing. I'm gonna gamble a little bit.
Okay.
Let's make a gamble. Um, do I want to gamble this early though? Maybe I don't. Maybe I don't. Maybe I just take TJ Moore.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like this is an appropriate range for him. Like
Yeah,
the the should be wide receiver one for Josh Allen. He likes to spread the ball around. He likes to run the ball himself and get all those touchdowns, which is a large part of their offense. But if you can get the guy that he's probably going to be looking to on scramble drills, I do like that pick.
yeah. I'll tell you the guy I was thinking about gambling on in a minute here
Okay,
when we get around.
sure. So I'm looking at because I want to fill out my roster within these first 9 rounds for the mock draft purposes here. I need a quarterback. I need a tight end. Quarterbacks, top ones on the board are Bo Nix, Brock Purdy, Baker Mayfield. Dak Prescott's here too. You know what?
Dax here.
I kind of like that. So I'm gonna, or do I go? Hmm. Yeah, that's. You know what? I'm gonna go. I might go Jordan Love. I'm gonna go Jordan Love here to pair him as a stack with my Christian Watson pick. Get those guys stacked together. I kind of like that in terms of winning strategy. And now I have to look at tight end here to round out my 9 round draft here. Tight end, when we're getting to this point, it's starting to look pretty gross. Kenyon Sadiq is the top one on the board here in terms of dynasty. Uh, George Kittle not gonna be ready for a while. Isaiah Likely, Eli Stowers. I might just go. I'm gonna go Jake Ferguson as a PPR kind of scam here to be
Right.
my tight end in this 9 rounder. And that's going to be it for me. That's my 9 player mock draft in the books. How are you going to
There
round this
you
out?
go. You know what? I think I will just show my gamble pick here because it doesn't really matter if I only have two wide running backs on my roster in this. And hey, it's Gente and Christian McCaffrey, so I'm fine. I don't need to worry about any backup running backs. We're good. Um, yeah, if I was gonna try to take a risk here, I might grab Quentin Johnson.
Okay, nice. Well, they just picked up his 5th year option,
Hmm.
so he's around in LA for a while longer. Certainly had a breakout season last year, so you certainly can't hate it. Are you
Yeah.
comfortable? Are you comfortable taking 2 players from the same team and Lab McConkey and Quentin Johnson?
I don't hate doing that. I
Okay.
don't mind having the backup kind of situation be a thing. I don't like doing that overly much, but in an offense that I generally speaking really like and will hopefully support two alphas, I think there's nothing wrong with that. And then if you end up in a situation where one of them does get injured, then you are only benefiting from that in
Yep.
some ways too, right? So yeah, I don't mind doing that. And again, I was just going to show off too. I think that's a good, kind of snag at that point in the draft as well.
Nice. Yeah. 100%. So why don't you run us through your team real quick, and then I'll run through
Okay.
mine, and we can just quickly talk about what we liked about this draft or not.
All right, so my starting lineup here, we've got Jackson Dart at quarterback. Just love the player. I think he's really exciting. And he is the kind of quarterback who is going to put up points. You can count on him doing some stuff with his legs. He's going to score some touchdowns for you on the ground. And so, yeah, absolutely excited to have him. Young quarterback, too. So he'll be around for a while. And I love what's going on with the Giants. So, all good things there. Wide receiver, I've got Amon St. Brown, great player. We all know what he can do. Lad McConkey, who I'm betting on a bit of a bounce back for here. So a little bit of a question mark there, but I like what I have kind of behind that wide receiver with McLaurin and DJ Moore to a couple more maybe safer options in some ways to flesh that out. Another maybe kind of bit of a reach with Johnson. And then in my tight end slot, got Tucker Kraft, who I'm a Green Bay Packers fan, as we all know. Absolutely love the player. I think he's going to have a huge year again. Just a guy that's big and gets up and gets balls. So I
His
love that my tight end.
his yak ability is fun to watch.
Yeah,
Just a big rumbling ball of muscle. Like catch
yeah.
the ball and you get out of his way.
Catch ball, run with ball.
Yeah, I
And
love
I
that.
love that.
I do love that. He is the quintessential Green Bay Packer.
Yeah.
Um, I went with Jameer Gibbs at the 104, Omarion Hampton 209. So running back, which I do think I appreciate in this draft where quarterbacks and tight ends were starting to fly off the board early. Um, I went Nico Collins. He's going to be my wide receiver one, and Luther Burden in the 409, AJ Brown at the 504. I mean, that is a big, powerful, fast, good group of receivers I like as my starting three. Jadarian Price in the 609. Uh, First round running back with plenty of opportunity. We just talked about it. So I
Mhm.
do like that as my first flex. Christian Watson in my second flex to pair along with Jordan Love, who fell to the 809. I think that's a good stack combination at this point in the draft. And then I had to take my L somewhere. I ended up with Jake Ferguson at the tight end position. I'm hoping for maybe a couple PPR scam kind of weeks out of a player like that. He was Dak Prescott's kind of go-to for a little while last season, so I'm hoping that's kind of the situation again. And this is just the first 9 rounds of
Yeah.
our dynasty startup. So, I mean, it's easy for us to be pretty high on our teams when the computer players are taking 2 quarterbacks in this in this mock, Bobby. But
Yeah, that not really realistic. I will say I like being able to kind of show off some drafting strategy too, though. It just some of those little things where you can kind of, I guess, manipulate the draft a little bit by who you take and when you take them. Are things to be conscious of, and drafting with an awareness of what other people have already taken and what their needs and probable picks are definitely things that you can use to your advantage in a draft.
well, 100%, and it's not just taking the top player in ADP. It's understanding who do you think might be there a round or two later. Like, who are the players worthy of reaching on,
Mhm.
um, based on your position in the draft and um, based on like your love of the player and their potential to break out. Because I mean, this ADP that we just looked at tonight is already different than it was a week ago when I was starting to do some mocks. So sleeper is starting
Oh,
to
sure.
catch up a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Knowing, yeah, who your league mates' favorite teams are, right, and who are
Yeah,
they going to rely on as their safety blankets, right? If you want to get a Green Bay Packer player and you're drafting behind me,
might have
you
to
might
reach
have a
on
hard
that.
time doing that, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah. All right, man. Well, that was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
We haven't had a chance to do a proper mock like that in a little while, so that was a lot of fun and good to talk through some stuff. I I I tend to find that I'm falling more and more in love with this double running back strategy early on,
Mhm.
just because they are so. I feel like they're. I shouldn't be telling you this as a league mate, but I feel like they are scarce. Like
Mhm.
the top end, top tier guys, there's only so many of them. Where I think for a long time, for this past couple of years, like wide receiver was king.
Mhm.
You know, you want that. They have the longer career. They have um, better health situations. They have the possibility of like
Mhm.
Like they're more projectable, I guess. But
Yeah.
but if I guess I shouldn't say that because first round running backs are maybe the most projectable fantasy asset when it comes to what you can expect in the first couple of years.
Yeah. Well, and I think, I kind of displayed it with my picks here and my last three picks all being wide receivers. I was just in a position where, I in all three of those picks, I would have taken a running back had there been someone there whose value I liked at
Yeah,
that position of the draft. And there just never really was. There were guys that, had it been around later, I might have jumped on, or who I wish had fallen to me a little bit as well. Like had Cam Scatterboot fallen to me at 6.4, I probably would have taken him there rather than going for my tight end and Tucker Craft. But it was just not really there value wise. So I think that proves the value of getting those running backs early on. Yeah, there's just kind of a huge dead zone.
yeah, yeah. And wide receiver has never been deeper. It feels like, right? Like we're looking at Jalen Waddle going in the sixth round. He's probably a wide receiver one for a Super Bowl worthy team. We're looking
Yeah.
at like guys that were top 12 receivers last year. Devontae Adams down at the 7-10. Mike Evans, like he's going to be a Hall of Famer. Like there are players here that contributed in a big way, but
Mhm.
they're starting to get pushed down because I think people
Yeah.
are starting to realize like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
value
We
of
have
quarterbacks and tight ends and those running backs.
We have well, and these are picks by the computers, but like yeah, Mike Evans going in the eighth round, and then Zach Charbonnet, who is not playing, going right after him,
Yeah,
right? So
thanks
that kind
sleeper.
of shows you how scarce it is that you're willing to take a player who's going to not play for you for a chunk of the season, right?
Yeah, exactly. Okay, well, that was a lot of fun, man. And we're going to head out on that, everybody. Thank you very much for hanging out with us and checking us out. And honestly, let us know who you thought had a better drafted team. Leave that in the comments. We like to keep the competition going between Bobby and I. Uh, it's a lot of fun to do this, and we have our. I think next Monday we're gonna have a fun episode, Bobby, when we're
Yeah.
debriefing our Dynasty Startup Draft, which is this coming Friday.
Will our draft even be done by that? Probably not, actually. We could be making picks live on the podcast next Monday.
That
So
is very true, which would be a lot of fun. So let's see how things shake out. But otherwise, thank you everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next week. And like and subscribe. I mentioned at the top, but if you haven't done it, just do it because helps us feel appreciated and it's a lot of fun. Like I said, we do this for fun, and we hope you learn a little something from all of our rantings. So thank you, Bobby. We'll be in touch obviously later this week. And thanks everybody again. We'll see you next week. Bye.